With today being D-Day, I have a personal family story that I only found about once from my grandfather, who served in the Royal Engineers. And he only spoke to me once about his experience of D-Day and landing on the beach in Normandy. And he only ever spoke about it once. He never said which beach or what exactly happened, but he gave a brief explanation, and then he moved on and made a cup of tea and never said anything else. He never spoke to my father or anybody else in the family, as far as I'm aware. And then a few years ago, a gentleman got in touch with my father, Mark Dios, got in touch with my dad because he'd been researching 84 Field Company Royal Engineers because his father had served with them. And he was looking for information about my grandfather. So there was a toing and froing of information, and the end result was this book, of which this is the second edition. From the Shores of the Murray Firth, the story of 84 Field Company Royal Engineers, 1944 to 1945. Now, I've messaged Mark Dias today to thank him for this because I wanted to mention his phenomenal investigative and writing piece in getting this and collecting this information and getting it together, because it's a lovely historical piece for our family, one which I'm enormously proud of. My grandfather, loved him very much. Sadly, he passed away in 2007. And Mark has informed me today that there's a link to a third edition, which is about as up to date as he thinks it's probably going to get, which I'll share with this as well. So if anybody who is interested, who served in the Royal Engineers, or who has family who served in the Royal Engineers, then this may be of interest to you as well. So I'll put the link in there for you to have a look at. But the things I wanted to touch on are to give a bit of history and meaning to this D-Day. So my grandfather, Ronald Henry Marion, who I shared the same birthday with, actually. It's quite unusual and a lovely thing. I shared my birthday with my grandfather, loved that, and I spent every opportunity I had to be there on the day with him. I always took. My father shared these photos with him. Sorry, this is going to be a bit awkward, but there we go. He shared these photos and these ones of my grandfather and my aunts and uncles, etc., all together. And but what was interesting is piecing together the information that my grandfather had he'd mentioned. But one thing he didn't mention was that the pre-D-Day training for 84 Field Company was actually up in the Murray Firth, which is, and I live in the northeast of Scotland. I live in Aberdeenshire. I live about 11 miles from Banff on the coast. I live just south of there, and it's all across area that I know quite well because my wife's family has relatives living along the coast, etc. And it kind of put things into perspective for me today, reading this, because the first time I've actually read this properly. And so Operation Overlord, the preparation, as you can see, I'll leave this like this so you guys can pause this and read it for yourselves if you want to. So the things I want to focus on are these bits here. So once they boarded the landing craft to head to the beaches, it's only then they were issued maps and they found out where they were going to land on D-Day. And the area referred to was Sword Beach, which was the section of beach near Lyon-sur-Mer and Le Brèche on the Normandy coastline. And the exact area they were to land on Sword Beach was known as Queen in the white and red sectors. And describing the channel the crossing itself, in the words of Sapper Harry Langley, it was just seasickness, utter fear and confusion, which I can absolutely understand. And Sapper Bill Pride recalls, when we finally got off the craft, it was still in 3 feet of water. We were up to our chests. We could not have got any more soaked as there was no shelter on the craft. With the stormy weather, it was sheer hell. There was more danger of drowning than there were from mines. It was 05:45 on June the 6th, a time and date I will never forget. The units landed in accordance with the landing sheets and were met with shelling, mortars and small arms fire. Their main objectives were to clear any mines, explosives or obstacles from the beaches to provide the infantry with a clear route across the beaches. Whilst the beaches were soon cleared of small arms fire, the shelling continued, and 84 Field Company Royal Engineers were to suffer casualties on D-Day. Those killed in action on D-Day were sappers Pirrie, Aitken, McAllister, Cooper, Corporal Swatridge and Lieutenant Simmons. Many others were wounded, and Sapper Bagshaw and Lance Corporal Chancellor were reported missing. Both were later confirmed as killed in action. Some equipment was lost during the landings, including a 3-ton 4x4 winch. Now this next piece really helped to put things in together. This is the actual nominal role for the D-Day landings for 84 Field Company Royal Engineers for Operation Overlord. What it shows you is, over here, landing table index, the craft ready to beach, service number, rank and name. And down here on 183 is my grandfather, Sapper Marion RH. So this landing table index was the landing craft that they were on, and HR plus 20. So these guys were pretty much the first people onto Sword Beach in order to clear the beaches. And to have a bit more clarity in a nice neat table. So beaching time, HR plus 20, landing table index 183, Queen beach sector, Queen Red. There were 6 marching parties on board, and they were a duplicate recce party here. So my grandfather's short snippet of information, that one time where he glazed over and just spoke, and I never interrupted him, thanks to Mark Dias, I've been able to piece it all together and understand exactly where he went, what he was doing, and at what time, and exactly where on what beach he was there and doing what he was doing. And today is having this extra information it's been quite an emotional day reading this, actually. Enormously proud. My grandfather was a man I had huge respect for, loved enormously, and I wanted to share this story and this link for anybody else who has an interest in military history, particularly World War II, who has a connection to the Royal Engineers, and to pin it down even more to anyone whose family served in 84 Field Company Royal Engineers, 1944, 1945, and were there on D-Day. To all those who didn't make it back, rest easy, gentlemen. To those who survived, phenomenal effort, well done. I appreciate there's an enormous amount of luck. And here's to never having to do that shit again.